Good evening. Welcome and thank you for joining us for the Loop 101 and I-10 System Interchange Study Public Information Meeting. I'm Kimberly Larson, Community Relations Project Manager with the Arizona Department of Transportation. Participants are joining us via their computers on Zoom or through their phones and are currently muted. If you are having any technical issues, you may need to hang up or log off, then redial or reconnect. If that does not work, please contact our team at 702-953-1239. Again, that number is 702-953-1239. During tonight's presentation, you will notice us speaking at a slower pace to accommodate our Spanish interpretation. Following the presentation, we will take comments and questions online and by phone. Instructions will be provided at that time. To turn on closed captioning, select that option from the menu on the bottom of your screen, as pictured on the slide. Please note, this event is being recorded and will be posted to the project website. ADA complies with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, and other related authorities in all of its programs and activities. Any person who believes his or her Title VI or ADA rights have been violated may file a complaint by contacting the ADOT Civil Rights Office at 602-712-8946 or via email at civilrightsofffice@azdot.gov within 180 days of the alleged violation.
ADA tiene como regla asegurar el cumplimiento total del Título 6 de la Ley de los Derechos Civiles de 1964, del Título 2 de la Ley de Ciudadanos Americanos con Discapacidades de 1990, ADA por sus siglas en inglés, y otras normas relacionadas con todos sus programas y actividades. Cualquier persona que crea que se han violado sus derechos bajo el Título 6 o el de ADA puede presentar una queja. Por favor, póngase en contacto con la Oficina de Derechos Civiles de ADA al 602-712-8946 o por correo electrónico en la siguiente dirección: civilrightsofffice@acdot.gov.
ADOT will make reasonable modifications to ensure that individuals with disabilities have an equal opportunity to enjoy ADOT's programs, services, and activities. If you require an accommodation, please notify an ADOT staff member. Tonight's presenters include Rosa Esquivel as our Spanish interpreter, Rashidal Haq, ADOT Project Manager, and Troy Ziglitz, Design Manager with Jacobs. Other project team members will also be available during the question and answer session. I will now turn the presentation over to Rashidal.
Thank you, Kim. The purpose of this meeting is to present information on potential near and long-term improvements to the loop 101 at I-10 system interchange and gather feedback from the public on area needs and issues. We will present an overview of the planned direct high occupancy vehicle or DHOV lanes that would connect the existing HOV lanes from loop 101 to north and I-10 to the east. We'll discuss a potential loop 101 to 91st Avenue ramp connector and other possible improvements within the project area. We will also let you know how you can comment tonight as well as after the meeting through the comment period ending November 9th, 2022. The study area includes the segment of Interstate 10 or I-10 between Avondale Boulevard to the west and 83rd Avenue to the east, and along Loop 101 from I-10 to Indian School Road. The project area currently experiences traffic congestions during the morning and evening commuting periods, both on the system interchange and on the arterial streets that connect with I-10 and Loop 101. There are many weaving and merging improvements approaching the interchange, which contributes to congestion and possibly increasing crash rates. The weaving is caused by a high number of vehicles entering and exiting the freeway close to the I-10 and Loop 101 interchange, as well as a lack of direct connection between the current HOV lanes on Loop 101 and I-10. So vehicles must weave across multiple lanes. Finally, there are a number of large distribution centers located south of I-10, which generate heavy traffic movements with limited options for access to the freeways and many conflicting movements with passenger vehicles. This study will evaluate potential options to address many of these issues. Now, I will turn the presentation over to Troy.
Thank you, Rashidul. To address many of the project needs that Rashidul mentioned, this study will focus on identifying a preferred direct HOV alternative, documenting other potential improvements within the project area, developing a design concept report and a preliminary design, evaluating the environmental conditions in compliance with federal regulations and identifying mitigation measures, and will develop a plan for implementing the improvements that are recommended as a result of this study. The study team will evaluate the environmental conditions in compliance with the environmental regulations such as the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, and the Clean Air Act. This process will document potential impacts to social, economic, and natural environments, including socioeconomic or environmental justice and Title VI, air quality, land use, noise, biology, Section 4F, cultural resources, historic properties, and hazardous materials. The team will also document public and agency outreach for the project record. With additional growth in the West Valley, it is anticipated that traffic levels will continue to increase, which would further increase congestion on I-10, Loop 101, and the surrounding areas. The study team will be evaluating both the existing traffic conditions and estimating the future traffic conditions up to the year 2050 within the study area. Traffic volumes are anticipated to increase by 6,000 to 7,000 vehicles per day during the AM and PM rush hours on Loop 101. That's a 55% increase in comparison to today. Traffic volumes are anticipated to increase by 3,000 to 4,000 vehicles per day during the AM and PM rush hours on I-10, a 23% increase compared to today. These increases in traffic volumes during the peak travel periods will likely contribute to increased congestion on both Loop 101 and I-10. The project area is currently experiencing moderate to high levels of congestion during the morning commuting period. These areas are shown in red, indicate high levels of congestion, and yellow indicates moderate congestion. Although some of the intersections show overall moderate levels of congestion, there are many individual turning movements that have high levels of congestion. During the evening commute, the project area continues to experience high and moderate levels of congestion. As discussed earlier, traffic volumes will increase over time, and the areas with high levels of congestion are anticipated to expand. To mitigate some of the existing and future congestion within the project area, several improvements are under consideration within the project area. These include a direct HOV connection for Loop 101 traffic to and from the north, and I-10 to and from the east. And also evaluate the need for a connection between southbound Loop 101 and 91st Avenue. We will consider possible interchange improvements to improve traffic flow on I-10 at Avondale Boulevard, 107th Avenue, 99th Avenue, 91st Avenue, and 83rd Avenue, and on the Loop 101 at McDowell Road, Thomas Road, and Indian School Road. We will also evaluate the existing and future traffic conditions on some of the area arterial roadways, including 99th Avenue, 91st Avenue, and McDowell Road. The existing Loop 101 and I-10 interchange currently provides 4 direct connecting ramps between the 2 freeways, including the southbound Loop 101 to eastbound I-10, southbound Loop 101 to westbound I-10, eastbound I-10 to northbound Loop 101, and westbound I-10 to northbound Loop 101. Within the system interchange area, there is also an eastbound I-10 exit ramp to 91st Avenue. Several alternatives have been developed for the direct high occupancy vehicle or DHOV ramp between Loop 101 and I-10 to and from the east. Alternative A would add the DHOV ramp within the medians of Loop 101 and I-10. The DHOV ramp would be the highest level bridge in the interchange area. Due to the height of the DHOV bridge, the ramp would need to extend further north on Loop 101 and east on I-10 to get back to the existing ground level. The existing medians on I-10 and Loop 101 are not wide enough to provide the needed room for the DHOV lanes and shoulders. So Loop 101 and I-10 would both need to be widened. All of the widening on I-10 would occur on the eastbound side of the freeway, and the widening on Loop 101 would occur on both sides of the freeway. Alternative B would remove and reconstruct the existing eastbound I-10 to northbound Loop 101 ramp, which would provide room within the Loop 101 median. The new I-10 to Loop 101 ramp would be moved toward the east and would continue to be the highest level bridge. The new DHOV ramp would be added within the medians of Loop 101 and I-10 and would be at the same level as the existing south to east ramp. Alternative C would shift the existing Loop 101 to I-10 southbound lanes toward the west, which would provide additional room in the Loop 101 median for the new DHOV ramp. The DHOV ramp would be at about the same level as the existing south to east ramp. This alternative would require reconstruction of the south to west ramp, and many of the existing bridges over McDowell Road would need to be widened and or replaced. Alternative D would remove the existing eastbound I-10 to northbound Loop 101 ramp and replace it with a new ramp located further to the east. This would allow the DHOV ramp to be located between the westbound I-10 to northbound Loop 101 ramp and the new eastbound I-10 to northbound Loop 101 ramp. The DHOV ramp would cross over the eastbound to northbound ramp into the Loop 101 median. Alternative E would remove the existing eastbound I-10 to northbound Loop 101 ramp and replace it with a new ramp located further to the east. A portion of the existing I-10 to northbound Loop 101 ramp bridge would be reconstructed to provide room in the existing Loop 101 median to accommodate the new DHOV ramp. It should be noted that this alternative would require a closure of the eastbound to northbound ramp during construction. Alternative F would not move or reconstruct any of the existing Loop 101 I-10 ramps. The DHOV ramp would cross over the I-10 westbound lanes and be located on the northeast side of the interchange. The DHOV ramp would then cross over the northbound Loop 101 lanes to the median. The DHOV improvements would extend further north on Loop 101 due to the crossover, similar to alternatives A and D. Another potential improvement being considered is a new southbound Loop 101 ramp that would connect to 91st Avenue. This new exit ramp would fly over the existing I-10 Loop 101 interchange and connect to the existing 91st Avenue exit ramp from I-10. An initial assessment of the area-wide traffic patterns has shown that there is a significant amount of traffic from north of I-10 that is destined to areas located south of I-10, near the I-10 Loop 101 system interchange. Much of this traffic currently needs to exit the freeway near the system interchange and then use the arterial streets to reach their destinations, increasing local street congestion. This is further complicated by the heavy truck traffic using the I-10 interchange at 99th Avenue to access the distribution centers located south of I-10. This new potential ramp may reduce weaving on Loop 101 and has the potential to relieve some of the traffic congestion on the arterial street system within the study area. The study team will evaluate the results of adding this ramp as well as possible improvements at the traffic interchanges on I-10 and Loop 101 within the study area, as well as on McDowell Road, 99th Avenue, and 91st Avenue. Other potential improvements will be evaluated at the existing interchanges to improve traffic flow. Additionally, we will be studying potential improvements that could be made on the arterial streets within a mile or so of the freeway to improve traffic flow, which could include possible turn lane additions and traffic signal timing revisions to improve traffic flow. These improvements will be identified as part of this study. Next, Rashidul is going to discuss funding and the study timeline.
Thank you, Troy. There is approximately $194 million identified for the fiscal year 2025 in the Maricopa Association of Governments Transportation Improvement Program for the I-10 and Loop 101 system interchange. The Arizona State Appropriation Bill included approximately $25 million for the potential Loop 101 to 91st Avenue ramp connection, which should partially fund the potential ramp. The project cost will be defined as part of the current study. The study started this past summer. We are currently completing traffic analysis for existing and future conditions. There will be a second public information meeting in late winter or early spring 2023 to present findings and recommendations and gather additional feedback once the initial report is complete. We anticipate completion of the design concept analysis by spring of 2023 with completion by summer of 2023. Now, I will hand it back to Kim.
Thank you, Rashidal. That concludes the presentation portion of our meeting. Before our question and answer session begins, we wanted to let you know how to find more information on this study. The study webpage is www.azdot.gov/I-10 loop 101 TI. You will find tonight's presentation available to view in both English and Spanish. Also on our website, you can sign up to receive project updates via email. Input received during the public outreach process is extremely important. The study team evaluates the technical aspects of alternatives and options, but relies on users of the study area to provide insight into the problems and potential solutions. There are several different ways for the public to provide comments. You can make a public comment at tonight's meeting or through our online comment form at azdot.gov/I-10 loop 101-comment form. You can also submit comments via email to klarson@azdot.gov or by calling 480-589-4366. Finally, you can mail your comments to Kimberly Larson, ADOT Community Relations, 1655 West Jackson Street, room 179, MD 126F, Phoenix, Arizona 85007. The study team will be accepting comments through November 9th, 2022. Kristen Dar with Central Creative will now moderate our question and answer session.
Thank you, Kim, and good evening, everyone. We will now begin to take questions. And we already have a couple. Let's go over the instructions for asking a question or making a comment. For those online, please use the Q&A button located in the bar at the top or bottom of your screen. And please type your question into the Q&A box. For those on the phone in English, enter *9 to raise your hand. Then when prompted, enter *6 to be temporarily unmuted. For those on the phone in Spanish, our Spanish interpreter will unmute you to take questions. Due to the time constraints and to allow everyone time to comment, please limit any verbal questions or comments to no more than 30 seconds. Also, please note that we may try to consolidate or combine similar comments and questions. Finally, we ask that if you have more than one question or comment, please hold your second or third question until all have had an opportunity to ask questions. We have 3 questions in the Q&A box. So I will start with the first one. Troy, this question is for you. Will you do a study when there are sporting events like football and NASCAR, which are big events, and in November and February of 2023?
Okay, well, thank you very much for the question. The focus of this current study is looking at the daily and weekend traffic levels, both current traffic levels in here in 2022 and off into the future in 2025. One of the things that we do as we look at that is we evaluate the daily traffic, the normal traffic, but we also do consider large events such as sporting events and other events that may be in the area. What we do typically with some of the larger events like that is we have a much greater focus during the construction of the project. And Randy Everett with the ADOT Central District is also available to address how it is handled during construction.
Yes, good evening. My name is Randy Everett. I am the district administrator for the Central District. Just to make sure that we're covering the question, so during construction, we typically do not allow the contractor to set up closures when we have a major event going on, such as something over 30,000 people attending the event. So during the whole development process, we will be talking with our local counterparts to make sure we understand what events are coming up, and then we will adjust for that in the construction.
Thank you, Randy. And just one more follow-up that I would like to add is we do, as part of our design concept process, document what those major sporting events are. And we know that NASCAR often has 2 races locally on an annual basis. And then we know that, you know, there's at least 8 or 9, sometimes more football games throughout the year. And then also concerts and other things that are going on in the area. So we do consider that. We document it as part of our process so that during final design and construction, it's considered going forward.
Thank you, Troy and Randy. And I'd just like to remind our panelists and everyone in our meeting that we are speaking slowly and taking pauses to allow for the Spanish interpretation. Our next question, Troy, is how do you add carpool lanes from the westbound I-10 to Loop 101 and vice versa?
Thank you. So as mentioned earlier, the focus of this current study is looking at adding the direct HOV ramp from the north leg of the 101 to the east leg of I-10. The question that's being asked now is how would you then add the DHOV ramp from I-10 to the west to Loop 101 to the north? Right now, that is not part of this current study and would require a separate study. Right now, the travel demand that we're seeing is showing more demand for the movement going from the north to the east. So that's the focus of our study right now.
Thank you, Troy. Our next question. It is mentioned that there will be improvements to both 99th Avenue and I-10 underpasses. Will there be an opportunity to make these underpasses into diverging diamond intersections to improve traffic flow?
Thank you for the question. One of the things that we are doing with this study is we are looking at all of the individual traffic interchanges. So as mentioned earlier on I-10 between Avondale, we're going to also look at 107th, 99th, 91st, and on the Loop 101 between I-10, looking at McDowell Road, Thomas, and Indian School. So specific to your answer, our traffic analysis is currently underway to determine what improvements or what the level of service or how much congestion is anticipated in the future at those locations. Once we have that information in hand, we are going to be looking at possible improvements at each one of those interchanges should they be needed up through the year 2050. Right now, we don't have enough information to know for sure what those improvements could look like, but they certainly could include a possible diverging diamond. We just don't have enough information yet to know that answer. We do anticipate having those answers during our next public meeting in the spring.
Thank you, Troy. There are a couple of people who have asked multiple questions, and I'm just going through new question askers, and I will get back to your questions for those of you who have asked multiple questions. Next question, Troy. Is there consideration of direct HOV access from eastbound I-10 to northbound Loop 101 and southbound Loop 101 to westbound I-10? There is significant growth west of this interchange. The DHOV lanes at the new I-10 and 202 headed to and from downtown get very little use compared to the ramps going to and from the West Valley. Might be a similar issue here.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. That was a long one. I'm trying to find it in the question and answer chat just to make sure that
It's at the bottom, Troy.
It's at the bottom. Okay, is there considered from eastbound I-10 to northbound? So yes, part of our study is looking at the DHOV or the HOV access from I-10 to 101. So it's 101 on the north and then I-10 to and from the east. And so it would be both directions. So for eastbound HOV traffic wanting to go to northbound, yes, we are looking at that connection. So basically the connections would be eastbound to northbound and southbound to eastbound. So those are the two movements that would HOV movements that would be accommodated with the possible DHOV ramp.
Okay, thank you, Troy. And sorry, I'm skipping around a little here to get to everybody.
I'm sorry, can I go back? I think I misspoke.
Sure.
The consideration of eastbound I-10 to northbound is not, I misspoke. It's southbound to eastbound and westbound to northbound. My apologies for the confusion there. That's what we are looking at with this current study. The eastbound to northbound HOV movement is not part of this current study, but we will definitely take that into consideration as part of our documentation. Apologies for the confusion.
Thank you, Troy. I'm going to read a comment that we received that is not a question, and then I'll go back and repeat a couple of questions from folks, follow-up questions from folks who have already asked one question. The comment that we received is, thank you for the excellent presentation. We also appreciate the comprehensive review of the need for the 91st Avenue connector that is sure to alleviate the significant congestion throughout the area in multiple jurisdictions. Would like to thank you for that comment. Our next question, Troy. Can we make an on-ramp from 91st Avenue to I-10 to avoid the 99th Avenue interchange?
Thank you for your question. Much like I mentioned earlier about the analysis of the interchange, each individual interchange, that is going to be something that we look at in that area. I'm not sure how it's going to look until we look more at the traffic. It may be a combination of ramps. It may be, we just don't know fully what it'll look like just yet until we get more traffic data and start putting some alternatives together. But providing that access without going through 99th Avenue is something that we're looking at. I just don't have a definite answer yet what it would look like.
Thank you, Troy. Next question. Will the eastbound ramp from I-10 to northbound 101 increase lane capacity to accommodate Glendale Westgate, definite increase in future venues, specifically the Crystal Lagoon?
So right now with this study, I believe that ramp is currently striped for 2 lanes going eastbound to northbound. Right now with this study, we're not looking at adding an additional lane to that existing ramp.
Thanks, Troy. Next question. Do you expect the DHOV ramps to alleviate the congestion that occurs when the current southbound to eastbound traffic has to quickly merge left while other traffic is trying to exit at 83rd Avenue? Or can any widening be done on I-10 to make it easier to merge?
Thank you for the question. As mentioned earlier, we're mostly focused on the DHOV as well as some of the individual interchanges and some of the cross streets. Right now, we're not spending a whole lot of time. We are looking at the traffic analysis to determine what lane requirements would be needed in the future. But the current scope of our study is to look at creating that HOV connection. We do think that by removing some of the HOV traffic from that ramp and putting it on its dedicated ramp, it would reduce the number of vehicles coming along that south to east ramp and could help with that weave between that ramp and 83rd Avenue. Our traffic analysis is looking at that to determine if it does benefit or if it doesn't. There are plans in the future along the I-10 corridor that could, I'm sorry, there aren't plans, but there are future studies that will look at improvements along I-10 down the road.
Thank you, Troy. The next question is, do you know when the Loop 101 from the 17 freeway to the off-ramp 75th Avenue begins construction in 2023?
So, Troy, I can join to respond to this. I'm Rashidul Haq, ADOT project manager, and I happen to be the project manager for that ADOT project, which is, I think for clarity, if I understood it clearly, the project is from 75th Avenue on SR 101 up to I-17. So currently our plan is to go in construction. Actual groundbreaking may happen towards the end of 24 or early 2025.
Thank you, Rashidul.
You are welcome, Kristen.
Next question, Troy, is at the bottom of the Q&A box. It's a long one, so you might want to read along with me. And let's just remember to speak slowly and clearly to accommodate our live Spanish simulcast. Here's your question, Troy. Thank you for taking the time to have this valuable overview of the proposed changes this evening to the I-10 101 loop interchange. My question is, how will the various proposals affect members of the LGBTQIAA+ community, specifically transgendered people and persons who are in the process of transitioning? This is very important to me as a member of this community. I'd like to know in what way you guys have considered our community with this proposed change to the freeway ramp systems.
Thank you for your, sorry, I'm speaking slowly. I'm trying to speak slowly to accommodate our interpretation. Thank you very much for your question. I think it's an important one. I do want you to know that, we consider the entire community when evaluating improvement alternatives and then implementing them in the future. We believe there are benefits for the entire community, and that would include those that are represented in this question.
Thank you, Troy. There are no additional questions in the Q&A box. So I'd like to remind those folks who have joined us by phone, if you would like to raise your hand and answer a question, you can press *9. For those of you who are online, in English or in Spanish, you may type your question into the Q&A box. As part of the Spanish simulcast, our Spanish interpreter will also ask for questions on the Spanish phone line. Thank you. We have another question. Troy, do we vote for the options presented?
So what we are trying to accomplish today is we have presented some preliminary alternatives for the design for the direct HOV ramp. What we would like to do is gather your feedback on the alternatives, as well as any other thoughts or concerns that you may have. And you can express them now. You can also type out a written comment on the ADOT website and get that information to us. What we do with that information is we put it into what we call an evaluation matrix, and that includes a whole lot of different elements. It includes elements such as cost and design criteria, traffic operational performance, community sentiment, and that's where we really need your feedback. Is if you have a preference, we want to hear what that preference is so that it can be considered. And then what we do is we take all of the information, we compare all of the alternatives, and then we have recommendations. And then when we come back to the public with our next meeting in the spring, we will also ask for feedback on those as well. There's technically not a voting process, but your input is definitely used, and it's very important so that we make informed decisions.
Thank you, Troy. Our next question is, how does the governor's veto of the Proposition 400 extension impact this project?
Rashidul, would you like to handle that question?
I will, yes, thank you. Thank you, Troy, and thank you for the question. So this particular project under study, we have it in Maricopa Association of Governments 5-year program. We call it Transportation Improvement Program. So this project has identified $194 million currently for fiscal year 2025. And also we have another $25 million identified in the current 2023 state appropriations bill, which was approved by the bill. So for our project, we have funding, which is in the program. So anything related to the Prop 400, beyond that, I will request to follow with the Maricopa Association of Governments website and other sources. But for our project scope, we are identified in the 5-year program. Kristen.
Thank you, Rashidul. And our next question is alternative E or any other alternative schematic an accurate representation of the possible interchange? Troy?
The short answer is yes. We have done preliminary engineering design for those alternatives that you have seen to give us a fairly good representation of what they would look like. There is further analysis and more design detail that needs to go into them, but they are a pretty accurate representation of what they could look like. I will also mention that at our next public meeting, they will be shown in even greater detail.
Thank you, Troy. And those of you that are with us may notice that I'm going to try and speak even more slowly to allow our Spanish simulcast to keep up. We have a follow-up question from an earlier question. Have you done any studies specifically addressing the needs of the LGBTQIAA+ community? You addressed the community at large, but you made no specific indication that you did anything at all to specifically consider our community's specific needs. Have you not considered the needs of other disadvantaged, or minority groups either? We should not let our rights be overridden by traffic considerations. Thank you.
Thank you again for your follow-up comments. Sorry, I need to slow down. I am going to hand this back to Kim Larson with ADOT Community Relations to provide a follow-up answer.
Thank you, Troy. In ADOT Communications and Public Involvement, we develop a public involvement plan that addresses how we engage all community members in the study area. I would encourage you to, the asker of this question this evening, if you would reach out to me, and my contact info is provided in multiple ways. We'll go over it again a little bit later, and perhaps we can type the contact information into the chat at this time. If you would please reach out to me and communicate specifically some of the needs of your community, and we would happily address those with you specifically and directly.
Thank you, Kim. Next question. Is there a current platform to communicate directly to project management or ADOT civil engineering from local workers of the affected area for further input?
Thank you for your question and desire to communicate with the team. We greatly appreciate it. We would like you to reach out to Kimberly Larson, who you just heard from. Kimberly, would you maybe follow up with your contact information so that we can schedule a meeting or hear directly what the thoughts and concerns are?
Kim's email is in the chat, which everyone who is in this meeting can see that. Our next question, Troy. You mentioned that the connector was partially funded. Where is the rest of the funding supposed to come from? How can you build it if you only have some, but not all, of the funds?
Rashidul, would you like to take that question?
I would like to, yes. Thank you for your question. Just like any other projects, we have any project like in the study phase or early phase, we have similar scenario. And of course, at this point, we are doing the study, and the current plan is to have the construction begin in 2025. So I am sure any project needs funding, complete funding. for making sure construction can begin on time. And at this early stage, we don't have the information. It will come out when we'll complete the DCR, the study, next year spring. We'll know the need for the project, and then we'll have to address it at that time. But to build any project, we will need confirmation of the funding. So we'll have to work with the stakeholders and make sure we will have funding if we want to proceed with the construction. I hope this answers your question.
Thank you, Rashidul. Our next question, Troy, is will lane capacity increase in all directions of study area, or is this study only focused on possible DHOV overpass?
The focus of this study is primarily the DHOV ramp. We are making sure that our design will accommodate future capacity or future lane additions. So although we're not adding additional lanes on the 101 or I-10 as part of this current study process, we are considering it so that it is compatible down the road.
Thank you, Troy. Our next question, are there issues regarding migratory birds with this project?
Thank you for your question. We are doing an environmental study with this project, and our biologists have been out in the field already doing some investigation. They are also doing research to determine what migratory birds may be in the area. If they are found to be in the area, and we need to generate any what we call mitigation measures that would need to be developed as part of a construction project in order to protect a certain species, that would be part of what is documented, so that when the project goes to final design and then construction, that those provisions are made and any sensitive species are protected.
Okay, thank you, Troy. Next question. Is this project a conjunction of all districts, Tolleson, Avondale, and Phoenix?
Yes, we do have regular meetings with all three of those cities involved. This project overlaps all of those jurisdictions, and so they are very important stakeholders in this study process. So the answer is yes, they are a part of our project stakeholder group. They are part of providing information. They are reviewing information. Yes, the short answer is yes, they are involved.
Okay, thank you, Troy. Just a reminder, if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to type them into the Q&A box. Also, check the chat for some valuable information, such as links to where you can find information, provide comments, and reach our team. Next question, Troy. Is a no-build alternative a consideration for this project?
Yes, we always consider the no-build alternative as a viable alternative. In some cases, it's been found that it's better to do nothing than to do something. So we always consider the no build as part of the study process. And it is evaluated as an alternative along with all of the build alternatives.
Okay, thank you, Troy. A reminder for our phone-in participants that if you would like to raise your hand to ask a question, please feel free to press *9. I'll say that again, *9. I might have said it a little quickly. Are there any other questions? Let's see, I might have another one. Okay, there's another one. Troy, can this project take advantage of the success of the I-10 and Loop 303 intersection?
We would like for this project to be as successful or more successful than that project. You know, that project, you know, everything went smooth during construction, traffic was accommodated. It was a little bit different project because it was a new freeway. This project, it's an existing freeway and it's much more constrained, and the medians are not wide enough to handle adding the DHOV ramp. So both Loop 101 and I-10 both need to be widened in order to accommodate the new ramp. So the construction complexity may be a little bit higher, but we do want this project to be just as successful in terms of moving people safely through the area.
Thank you, Troy. And we are watching for additional questions. Also, if any phone-in callers would like to raise their hand and ask a question, please press *9. The Spanish phone line is also open and available. We would like to answer any questions that you have. I'll go ahead and read a comment that we received. Thank you guys for answering all my questions. I look forward to this project as a local impacted worker. Thank you for that comment. We do have another question, Troy. How much additional funding is needed to build the connector? And what are possible funding sources?
Thank you for your question. Rashidul, would you like to answer that one?
Thank you, Troy. Yes. So as you can see, we are in the initial phase of the study. The study has not gone that far to identify the estimate how much we need. But we have previous information back in 2021. The estimate for the connector was 63 million, and that was in the year 2021. And as you can see, we are already on 22. There will be a couple more years. And last few years, what we have observed, the price of materials, labor, inflations, those are already indicating, the estimate that we had in the past 63 million might be obsolete. So we have to wait for the DCR to complete and get that current information. Thank you.
Thank you. And we are watching for additional questions. Please feel free to type your question into the Q&A box. If you have joined us by phone in English, please press *9 if you have a question. The Spanish phone line is a separate phone line, and our interpreter will continue to see if anyone has questions there. Troy, I do have a question for you. The question is, where can I review the study documents?
The study documents, as they are completed, will be posted on the ADOT web page for this project. We will post the link to that into the chat so that everybody has it available. But as project documents are completed, they are posted for public review.
And I'd like to invite everyone to view the link to the project website in the chat. We are monitoring the Q&A box for any additional questions. And I have another question for you, Troy. What happens after this public comment period ends?
That's a great question. Kimberly, would you like to answer how we take these comments and use them?
Sure, thanks, Troy. Comments provided will be reviewed and responses will be provided as part of the project documentation and will be considered during the development of the DCR or design concept report and environmental documents. A second public meeting is anticipated in early 2023 to present the study recommendations documented in the initial DCR.
Thank you, Kim. If you have any additional questions, please type them into the Q&A box. If you have called in on the English phone line, please press *9 if you have any questions. And if there are questions on the Spanish phone line, our Spanish interpreter will let us know. I do have another question for you, Troy. How would the proposed improvements change the current freeway traffic movements?
Thank you, Kristen, for the question. All of the existing traffic movements on the Loop 101 and I-10 would continue to be available. There are many weaving and merging movements approaching the interchange, which is contributing to some of the congestion and possibly increasing the crash rates. The weaving is primarily caused by a high number of vehicles entering and exiting the freeway close to the Loop 101 I-10 interchange, as well as a lack of a direct connection between the current HOV lanes on Loop 101 and I-10 to the east. So that makes vehicles weave across multiple lanes as well. So if implemented, the DHOV ramp would allow a continuous transition for vehicles using the HOV lanes on the 101 to and from the north and I-10 to and from the east. And this is anticipated to reduce some of those traffic weaving movements on both freeways.
Thanks, Troy. And thank you all for being with us this evening. We are happy to answer any other questions that you might have about this project. Please feel free to type any questions that you have about this project into the Q&A box. And we have 2 phone-in participants on the English phone line. If either of you have any questions, please press *9. Great question. Next question, Troy. Will this intersection eventually connect to future SR 30?
Based on the current freeway program, there are no immediate plans that I'm aware of that would connect Loop 101 to SR, was it SR 30? I'm sorry.
Yes, Troy,
Okay.
SR 30.
Yeah, to SR 30. Yeah, I have not seen anything that would show that. I would encourage you to go to the Maricopa Association of Governments website. They are the regional planning authority, and they have a freeway program, a freeway life cycle program that can be viewed there. Their website is www.azmag.gov.
Great. Thank you, Troy. We are nearing our end time. And I would like to ask this question, or have our group answer this question, sorry. How and when can I provide comments? And I believe our next slide covers that.
Kimberly, would you like to take this one?
Yes. And as you can see on the slide here, you can find more information, make a comment, sign up to be on the study mailing list, or watch the recording of tonight's meeting on the study website at azdot.gov/I-10 _loop 101 _TI. To assist us with federal reporting, we ask that you also please consider completing the voluntary self-ID survey. The English survey can be found at azdot.gov/I-10 loop 101 self-ID survey ENG. For the Spanish survey, visit azdot.gov/I-10 loop 101 self-ID survey SPA. And those links have been added into the chat box for everyone's reference. Finally, if you have a question or comment, you can make it or ask it through one of several ways. Our online comment form is located at azdot.gov/I-10 loop 101 comment form. You can email me at klarson@azdot.gov. You can make a comment by phone or ask a question by calling 480-589-4366. And finally, you can submit a comment or ask a question via mail. Please send your correspondence to Kimberly Larson ADOT Community Relations, 1655 West Jackson Street, room 179, MD 126F, Phoenix, Arizona, 85007.
Thank
And I
you,
will-
Kim.
oh.
I'm sorry. Thank you. We do
Thank you.
have 2 more questions to round out our question and answer session. Troy, when is groundbreaking expected to begin?
Right now, the construction for the I-10 Loop 101 improvements is currently programmed in the MAG Transportation Improvement Program for fiscal year 2025. So it would likely be sometime in 2025. And I think there was a second question related to right-of-way.
Yes,
And
Troy.
so I will go ahead and address that one right now also. In general, there is very limited property acquisition anticipated with the project alternatives. If needed, we think they would be likely small strips of land to accommodate any widening that would be needed. Once the alternatives are further developed and refined, we will have a better understanding of what, if any, properties are affected.
Thank you, Troy. And that will conclude our question and answer session. Kimberly, did you want to close the meeting?
Sure. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I would just like to once again, remind everyone to complete the self-ID survey, which is completely voluntary, or provide your comments or questions. All of the links are on our website at www.azdot.gov/I-10 _loop 101 _TI. That link is also in the chat at this time for your reference. Thank you so much again for joining us this evening, and that concludes our meeting tonight.